Hello, BookTube. Welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk about my book haul, the first book haul of 2026. I got these books yesterday from two used bookstores. Actually, it's the two bookstores are part of the same chain, if you will, called Wonder Books. And I just kind of have been having an itch to go book browsing, and since my November, December Read What You Own challenge is over, I thought I would take the opportunity to go look at some books and maybe buy a few. I had a few books in mind. I really only got one of those. All the other books I got were really not books I had planned on buying, although a couple I guess were. I did get a couple classics, but anyway, let me get into those. So I did get, I guess, what you would call two classics, and mass market paperbacks that are, I guess fairly old, but I really like the covers of these. The first of these is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. I just really, I don't know if you can see that well. I really like the cover. It's a signet classic, and just to give you some idea of, I don't know when this particular volume was published. 1965 or 1980. I'd say it looks kind of 1980-ish. It was $2.95 when it was first published, or when it was published. So, Northanger Abbey. I have a few other Jane Austen books. I have Pride and Prejudice. I have Emma. I have Sense and Sensibility, and I think it was Joe at Joe's book and movie YouTube station who mentioned he liked Northanger Abbey, and so as I was browsing the books, I thought, well, maybe that would be my next Jane Austen purchase. So there's that. The other classic I got is Thomas Hardy's The Return of the Native. And again, I really like the cover of this. It's a Bantam classic. It was $2.50 when it was published. Looks to be like another 1980s edition. Looks like possibly 1981. But again, I really liked the cover. I did read, or at least listen to, the Audible version of The Woodlanders by Thomas Hardy last year. And I started to listen to The Return of the Native on audio as well, but I kind of stopped listening to it. But I did think the story was potentially still interesting, and so and this was a fairly clean copy, kind of in decent shape. And again, I really like the cover. So those are my two classics from yesterday. And I walked away with 4 books by Ian Fleming on James Bond. And probably a while ago, I wouldn't have given a second thought to buying any of these Ian Fleming books. I was a pretty big fan of the James Bond movies, but had never really felt any burning desire to read the Ian Fleming novels that the movies are at least loosely based on. But during Dr. November, I think it was Mark at Book Time with Elvis, who was one of the Dr. November hosts, think he was the one that was saying that these Ian Fleming books, like the newer versions, have been boulderized, and that was a new term for me. I didn't know what boulderized meant, but apparently it means that the originals have been have been cleaned up a little bit in terms of some aspects of their language or their references, sexual or racial or otherwise. And I guess I can understand the thought process behind that, but it made me think that, gee, I'd really like to read the original versions. And I know that, again, Joe from Joe's Book and Movie Corner read Dr. November, or Dr. No, recently, which is, of course, was where the term Dr. November came from. So I picked up 4 of these Ian Fleming books used yesterday. One, I got the paperback version. I kind of liked the paperback version of Goldfinger. It's got, I guess it's supposed to be Goldfinger, the villain, who's kind of in the background of the cover. And it has this rather attractive brunette lady kind of on the forefront. Although I think the women in Goldfinger were all blondes. But anyway, I got this one. It's fairly old, but in pretty good condition. I don't know if this actual book is from 1959 when it was first published, or, well, it says this edition was published 1961. So there you go, 1961, Ian Fleming's Goldfinger. The other 3 Ian Fleming books are all hardcovers, and I'm just sort of recognizing now that the covers are all pretty much the same. They've got the title and kind of a drawing of a gun. This is Dr. No. This is You Only Live Twice. And we've got Thunderball here. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should have... There were paperback versions of a couple of these books, too. And I don't know, maybe those would have been... At least the covers would have been nicer, but I think these hardcovers are in a little nicer condition, and they're all kind of deckled edges. So yeah, I think the hardcovers were about $7 each. Let's see here. Let me jump into 2 of the nonfiction books that I bought. This book. This is The Brontes, Charlotte Bronte and Her Family by Rebecca Fraser. Rebecca Fraser. There was, since I've been kind of all things Brontes for the last couple of months, I was sort of interested in, learning a little bit more about their lives. There is a book that was referenced in 15 Wild Decembers that's about the Brontes, but it's almost 1,200 pages long. So, but I did look for that, didn't see it. This book is not, it's about 500 pages. The Brontes, Charlotte Bronte and Her Family by Rebecca Fraser. I had never heard of this book, so I guess that's one of the benefits of browsing. You come across books that you've never heard of, and that you think you might like to read. And so I'm really, really happy to have gotten that. The other nonfiction is this book, Martin Van Buren, The Romantic Age of American Politics by John Niven. This is part of the American Political Biography series. It includes a couple volumes that I already have. One is John Adams, A Life by John Ferling. The other is James Buchanan, President by Philip S. Klein. And the other is Zachary Taylor, Soldier, Planter, Statesman by K. Jack Bauer. The book Gentleman Boss, Life of Chester A. Arthur is also part of this series, and I have read that book. And I was aware of this volume, and I have at various times had this volume on my Amazon wish list, and just have never gotten around to buying it, probably because it would have no doubt have been rather expensive. I got this hardcover for $12.95. I think probably all of these books, I might have found for cheaper just online. Now that I think about it, but in any event, I like browsing, and have to be free to do that every once in a while. So I'm looking forward to having this book in my collection and getting around to reading it at some point. Okay, kind of going back to Dr. November and the spy story, the spy genre. John le Carre, his books were featured in many videos that were made by booktubers during the month of November, and so I picked up two additional John le Carre books that I didn't have. One is The Night Manager. The Night Manager is it's a book that was turned into a TV series. I forget by which network, but it aired. It aired several years ago. Had a pretty strong cast. There is a new story related to the Night Manager that is either has already been released, or it will soon be released, I think, by the BBC. So I'm looking forward to possibly seeing that. I have watched some of the first series, and the names of the actors in that series, their names escape me. But the villain in the story is played by the actor who filled the role of Gregory House in House, the doctor, and the noble, upright member of the Secret Services is played by, I want to say, Tom Hiddleston. I might be fudging that name. But anyway, so The Night Manager I picked up. And then I got this book. This is Smiley's People. I don't know if this is the final John Smiley novel or not. But it's one of the Smiley books that I do not have. I read, George Smiley has one of the John le Carre characters who was featured in quite a few of John le Carre's books. I don't know if he's in all of them. I'm pretty sure I don't think he's in all of them, but there are a good 5 or 6 books that feature George Smiley. George Smiley was the main character in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, and a few other books. And so Smiley's people. 2 kind of more recent mass market fiction authors that I got. This is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I think I had a copy of this at one time, and I've read it and seen the movie. Really like Gillian Flynn, although she certainly writes with a real edge. I guess I've been thinking of, that I might like to read this story again and maybe have this, get this book again. Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. Gillian Flynn, as I said, Gone Girl was, made into a movie a few years ago with Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike and a couple other well-known actors. Very well done movie. 2 other books by Gillian Flynn were also turned into movies or TV series. Sharp Objects was turned into a TV series, and that was pretty good. That starred Amy. I can't believe I don't remember her name. But yeah, anyway, that was really well acted, and that was Sharp Objects. It was a TV series, and the other book of hers was Dark Places. That was turned into a movie. But she hasn't written anything. Certainly not written any major works. Hasn't released any novels since Gone Girl, which came out apparently in 2012, thereabouts. That's the date of this paperback anyway. So it's been more than 10 years since Gillian Flynn has released a major work of fiction. And so I hope she decides to write something else. But until then, and then I picked up Dennis Lehane's Mystic River. This was turned into a movie. A lot of Dennis Lehane's books have been turned into movies. The only other book by Dennis Lehane that I have at the moment is Shutter Island, which was also turned into a movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio today's not a good day for me remembering names or the names of authors, but Mystic River was turned into a movie that came out, quite a few years ago. Kind of an all-star cast. I think Sean Penn was in it, among others. So, actually, right on the cover, Sean Penn, Kevin Bacon, Tim Robbins. That movie was directed by Clint Eastwood. I didn't remember that. Mystic River. So I look forward to reading that. I don't think I've ever actually read that book. So that'll be a fresh read. Finally, the last 2. These are books both by the same author, Dan Simmons. And Dan Simmons is kind of one of those authors that, his books always sort of look interesting, but I have never picked one up. And I know that Pat from Book Chat with Pat is doing. I think she's reading Drood this year for one of her book clubs. I'll link to her station in the description, and just sort of her description of this book kind of caught my attention. It's written. It's a historical novel. It's about Charles Dickens, and it's written in the voice of Wilkie Collins, who was also an author, The Lady in White. So yeah, this seems really mysterious. So Drood by Dan Simmons. And there's another Dan Simmons book that Randy Ray at the Literate Texan is going to be featuring as a part of the Lone Star Book Club. And I think it's called Hyperion. But I wasn't able to find that. But I did find this one. This is Flashback. It's kind of a futuristic dystopian book in which all political, economic, and social order has collapsed, and everyone's addicted to this game called Flashback. And the book is written or features a police detective, and I'm a real sucker for dystopian works, and so this I had not heard of this title, but the story sounded interesting, so I decided to pick this up, and yeah, so quite a haul. I don't know if it was kind of afterwards. I felt a little guilty that I bought so much. This was not really a cheap used bookstore, or at least most of their books are really not very cheap. And so, I spent a little less than $100, but I got, again, I got the 2 classics, 2 biographies, 4 James Bond stories, and 6 other books. So yeah, more than, close to a dozen books here. So maybe that was worthwhile. And I found some things that, I might not have been turned on to if I hadn't been browsing. So I enjoyed that. So obviously I've got a lot to read here beyond the things that I'm already reading. And so I've got a lot to keep me busy for the rest of the year, probably. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon with another bookish video.